All right, so it's been just over a month since I launched this podcast, and it's been full of mistakes and equipment failures and errors and some pretty frustrating moments when the words just don't come out right or the video just doesn't look as good as it should, or you forgot to hit record. And for those of you watching, you should actually notice a pretty major improvement in video quality today moving forward. I've been learning things and applying them, and I definitely wouldn't be learning the things that I'm learning if I hadn't just started. And that specific theme is actually something I've been circling around a lot, and today I want to bring it home to land. The common thread, even throughout the conversations that I've shared thus far, is that none of us have found breakthroughs until we hit breaking points. So Chris would not be the award-winning musician, father, and man that he is if he didn't leave Boston, everything that he knew behind, to go to Hawaii and really completely disconnect from the everyday reminders of losing both of his parents and all the toxicity that was surrounding him. Or Deo's mother, who had to figure out how she was going to get her 4 boys out of the Congo after their father, a Congolese military official, was executed for supporting the new government. The only way that she could do this was to partially deny who she actually was and really lean on the fact that she was half Burundi and not Congolese, and figure out how she could get refuge out of this country. So she did whatever she could, and she followed advice, and she asked questions, and she created a blueprint with help from others that no one believed was possible to get her boys out of the Congo and to the United States. Or even myself, I had given up on what I knew was connected to my purpose to pursue a different kind of success because I thought I needed that. And only to find that that success wasn't making me happy. Although I was very grateful for it, I was not ungrateful for what that success had provided, but I had forgotten that I actually had a choice and that I had lost an essential part of myself by trying to squeeze into a definition of success that wasn't mine. And throughout my time as a leader and managing people, I realized how so many of us, most of us, do just that because we question ourselves or we don't trust ourselves, and we see someone else who's doing a lot of things, at least objectively, that we wish we could do, and we covet their success because we haven't reached our own definition of what that actually means for us as individuals. And then when it's not fulfilling, we blame ourselves and it becomes our own fault, as if we didn't really try or we didn't really work hard or we're just not cut out for it. Admiration does not equal alignment. And that can be a tough realization to come to. It's kind of a cognitive dissonance because we see something that we want to emulate, and a lot of times it's based on what we see everyone else moving towards. And just because everyone else is trying to get something does not mean that that is for you. But a lot of times we don't take the time to really define what actually speaks to us because we're too focused on trying to impress others or to please others. So we are trying to impress others by trying to be what impresses us. And that's generally not how it works. See, it's our job to gather as much information as we can and make our decisions for our lives, but it's not supposed to be based on what other people admire or are impressed by. It has to be something that's truly intrinsic if it's going to have longevity. And we get attracted to these flashy things or these shiny objects who other people who have reached their version of success, and a lot of times we see it all over YouTube and all over the place where people have created a guide or a course or some shit like that that's designed to be a guide to happiness or a guide to success, and that's absolute bullshit. Because like any organization that implies that you can only be successful with them is a fucking trap, especially if they're asking you to pay for it. Like they created their success by getting you to pay for it. And how many ways do you need to contort yourself to fit into someone else's version of success? It's a fucking trick. And like, if you don't define it for yourself, someone will gladly sell you their version right away for as much as you want to spend in as many different ways. But don't ever trade your happiness for what you think success means. Because the happiest people I've ever met are not necessarily the people who are the hardest workers or followed someone else's version. They're the people who did the things that no one had to tell them to work harder at. And we glorify hard work. And I'm not trying to say that hard work is not important or imperative and necessary, but hard work does not necessarily equal impact. And it does not necessarily mean that you're going to find fulfillment. But the people who do find fulfillment and the people that have the most impact are the people who love what they're doing. And I'm not saying it's going to be easy or that you shouldn't follow a particular path if it feels right, or that work isn't actually work if you love what you do, because the work will be hard either way. And you'll have to do things that you don't want to do when you don't want to do them. I just think it should be worth it. Because after you spend 10 or 20 years working hard, only to realize that you don't actually want what's at the end of the rope you're climbing, it's not going to be easier to make life adjustments when you're in your 40s. The earlier that you decide what you actually want and define what the first small embarrassing steps are, the sooner you'll get through the hard part. Because the first steps will feel small and beneath you and pointless. And there will be a hard part. Anytime we go through a transition in life, whether it's careers or relationships ending or moving to a new state or a new city, that shit's hard. But imagine how much better it feels to be the one making those decisions or those choices. And we convince ourselves that we don't have choices because they happen so fast throughout our lives that we don't even realize that decisions are being made. A lot of times they're determined by other people or those who are positioned to influence us. And I'm not even saying that they always mean bad. A lot of times they're really just trying to help send us in a direction that they think is going to be right for us, but we end up just getting so distracted by what other people want and by what other people want for us or for themselves, or what other people are impressed by. And by the time that we realize that we could have gone a different direction, like it's just too late to turn around. And then, hey, things aren't supposed to be easy, and everyone's telling me how great of an opportunity this is, so I'm just going to pursue it, and I'm going to be really successful. Only to realize that, like, we're working to be successful at something that's not actually going to bring us fulfillment or happiness. And the older I get, the more I realize that that's not success. And we all know that happiness is not a destination. And it's not even the journey, which is what I'm sure that you thought I was going to say. But happiness is being able to look at your own life objectively and be proud of it. It's not perfection, it's progression. Because there's no there over there anyway. That thing that you think you're working towards, in most cases, is a mirage. Because success isn't necessarily going to bring you happiness, and happiness you don't believe is going to bring you success. But we get those things completely mixed up. So happiness is enjoying the process of your growth and loving yourself simply for being yourself and all that that means. So a lot of people are successful before they even realize that they're successful. But making yourself into a different shape to fit into boxes that you aren't made for will only cause you pain. Like the way that they used to wrap up ladies' feet, right? So they wouldn't grow. But for your life. So it comes down to this. Where did your definition of success come from? I want you to write this down. Is it Instagram? Is it movies? Is it the dude that you saw driving a Lamborghini? I want you to write down a list of people that you truly align with, who really inspire you. Someone that you'd actually want to trade lives with, like even knowing that you'd have to do the work because you can't avoid the work. And I'm quite sure that like these people you align with is not because of their job title or their car or how many likes their video got, but it's how they made people feel or the problems that they solved or just the way that they approach life. Next, I want you to actually write what you would do with your time constructively if money were no object. What would you do with your time if money were no object? Maybe you'd make music or you'd make films or jewelry or art. Maybe you'd want to redesign public spaces or make a real difference in government or legislature or something like that. My point is that there's someone who makes a living doing exactly what you wrote down. And they're living out who they want to be. Maybe they went to school, maybe they didn't. Most of them messed up the first time or two, just like you and I. But they took back control, defined what they wanted, and designed their future. So I'm not saying you shouldn't have a job. I'm not saying you shouldn't go to college. You may need that education to pursue those dreams, and you may need that job to pay your bills. But don't let that education or that job lead you to a dead end that doesn't give you real validation, purpose, or happiness. And don't be so scared of failing that you aren't honest with yourself about who you are and what you actually want. You don't always get another chance in this lifetime. Peace, peace.